Howdy, howdy, howdy. Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Heather and as always I'm reading with vengeance and I hope you are too. Sending out big love to all you OGs who keep coming back, and if you're new to my channel, and recently there have been quite a few new additions and I'm so grateful for them. Very warm welcome to you and to everybody else. I hope everybody is doing very well. So I did a thing that I didn't think I was going to do, but I did, and so here we are. I signed up again to be a judge for the Booktube Prize. I did the first round of this year's Booktube Prize. I did the octofinals and I was assigned 6 books for that. It kind of took up my reading time and I really enjoyed it. I had a good time and I was glad that I did it. And afterwards, I wasn't sure I was going to do it again because sometimes I get wrapped up in being assigned books when I'm following certain prizes. You know, I was a judge for the Booktube Prize, so here are 6 books that I was required to read in order to fulfill my commitment. And then I follow the Women's Prize for Fiction, and so there are books that I commit to reading. And while I'm doing it, it's great. But when it's all said and done, and I haven't done any mood reading in several months, it just can kind of take the fun out of it sometimes. So let's just be clear, full disclosure, I signed up to be a judge for this round. And I'm not disappointed that I was selected to be a judge, but I wouldn't have been disappointed if I wasn't selected. Do you know what I mean? I just did a video, one of my most recent videos, of 5 books that I'm definitely going to read in June. And I'm not sure if that's going to happen because now I have these 6 books that I am assigned to read. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about. Again, I'm not complaining, but this comes on the heels of me kind of whining and moaning about following too many prizes and then reading books that I don't normally pick up. But that's the end of it. I'm actually pretty excited about being a judge again. We're coming towards the end of the prize. We're down to the final 12 books in each category. If you don't know anything about the Booktube Prize, I have some videos that I'll link down in the doodly-doo of the books that I was assigned and my reviews of those books and a little bit of a history of how it works. This prize was kind of founded by Robert over at Barter Hordes. He's an academic, he's a published author, he has his own personal channel which I'll link down below, and then he also created the Booktube Prize, and that's a separate channel which I'll also link down below. This is a prize that is basically run and judged by content creators on Booktube, regular viewers of Booktube, regular commenters of Booktube, just everybody kind of in the Booktube community. Everyday readers, really. I'm not really sure about the logistics of how specific books are selected, but how they go down and become finalists is Booktubers and Booktube watchers read these books and they rank them. They're given 6 books to read per time segment, and those books are ranked 1 through 6. The Booktube Prize started in 2019. I think it's been gaining popularity ever since, and I'm enjoying it, and I'll probably do it next year, all complaining aside. Now, I was a judge for the octofinals, which is the first round of the prize. Like I said, I'll link those 2 videos that I did down below. You can see which books I read for the first round, what I thought about them. There were 2 books that I absolutely loved that ended up going on to be nominated for the Women's Prize for Fiction. And then there were 2 books that I just did not get along with at all. And then there were 2 books that were just kind of okay. Interestingly enough, one of the books that I thought was okay has made it to the semifinals, and that is How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. That's a collection of short stories. And one of the books that I absolutely loved has, of course, progressed to the semifinals, and that is Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. And if I didn't mention before, there's 2 categories. There's fiction and nonfiction. I think at one point they had translated fiction as well, but for one reason or another, they took that category out of the prize. I don't know if that's just for this year or indefinitely, but for now it's just fiction and nonfiction, and I have been judging the fiction category. And one last thing that I will mention before I get to talking about the books is I will not be able to review these books, or at least share those reviews with you, until the end of this round. So we are assigned these books to read. We're given 2 months to read them. So I have June and July to read these 6 books. July 31st is the cutoff date to where I need to submit my rankings. Once I submit my rankings, come August 1st, any reviews that I have, I can publish on social media and here, and that's when I will make a video as far as what I thought about these books. Perhaps my wrap-ups might be 1 book or 2 books shy, because there will be books that I'm not going to be able to talk about until August. So full disclosure there. And then I will probably do it in vlog form so that these books will remain fresh in my mind and I can share my thoughts with you right away rather than wait 2 months before I talk about them. I did that the last time and I think that was a pretty good way to go about doing things. And plus I kind of went out and about. I was freshly moved to Savannah, and so I kind of combined vlogging my wanderings around town with the Booktube Prize. So I think I'm going to do that again this time. I think that'll be fun for both of us. All right, so let's get started and talk about the books that I've been assigned for the semifinals for the Booktube Prize. The first one, which I will just get out of the way right now, is Trespasses by Louise Kennedy. Interesting thing about this book, I've already read it, so that's good. So actually there's 5 books that I have to read in the next 2 months, so that's not quite as difficult. But interesting about this book is that I initially nominated this book to be involved in this prize when they were coming up with the first finalists of the prize this year. I nominated this book before reading it based on the synopsis. I was super excited to read it. It was one of the, I think, 20 books that I chose to nominate for the Booktube Prize this year. And of course, it made it, obviously. Interestingly enough, I didn't read it for the Booktube Prize. It was never assigned to me until this round. But I ended up reading it because it was longlisted this year for the Women's Prize for Fiction, and I try to get through as many of the books on the long list as I can, and not only that, it is now shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction. So just a quick synopsis about Trespasses. This follows Kushla, who is a young woman living in a small town around Belfast, Northern Ireland during the time of the Troubles. She is a woman who's kind of caught in the middle of political conflict because of who she is and who her community is, and then a man that she falls in love with who happens to be connected to the other side of that political conflict. I won't say now what I thought of Trespasses. We don't want any bias out there before the rankings are submitted. However, if you want to find out what I thought of Trespasses, I will link the video that I did down below. If you are connected to the Booktube Prize in any way, as far as judging it, please try to refrain from watching that video. But if you're not connected in any way, please feel free. So I get a little bit of a pass because I've already read one of the books that I've been assigned for the Booktube Prize. Let's get talking about the books that I haven't read yet. So I went to the library today to try to pick up as many as I could to get started. And I found 2 at the library. The first one is Take My Hand by Dolan Perkins Valdez. I have had this on my TBR, so I am pretty excited about this one. You know, it's kind of funny. I'm going to be talking about books that have already been around for a while. So they're not new releases, but they're books that I haven't read yet. So what are we doing here? But still, they're books. We're going to talk about them. So Take My Hand. Let's see what this is about. Take My Hand is 359 pages long, and it is marketed as historical fiction. A searing and compassionate new novel about a young Black nurse's shocking discovery and burning quest for justice in post-segregation Alabama. Montgomery, Alabama, 1973. Fresh out of nursing school, Sybil Townsend intends to make a difference, especially in her African-American community. At the Montgomery Family Planning Clinic, she hopes to help women shape their destinies to make their own choices for their lives and bodies. But when her first week on the job takes her along a dusty country road to a worn-down one-room cabin, Sybil is shocked to learn that her new patients, Erica and India, are children, just 11 and 13 years old. Neither of the Williams sisters has even kissed a boy, but they are poor and Black, and for those handling the family's welfare benefits, that's reason enough to have the girls on birth control. As Sybil grapples with her role, she takes India, Erica, and their family into her heart, until one day she arrives at their door to learn the unthinkable has happened, and nothing will ever be the same for any of them. Decades later, with her daughter grown and a long career in her wake, Dr. Sybil Townsend is ready to retire, to find her peace, and to leave the past behind. But there are people and stories that refuse to be forgotten, that must not be forgotten, because history repeats what we don't remember. Inspired by true events and brimming with hope, Take My Hand is a stirring exploration of accountability and redemption. I am intrigued. I'm so glad I got a hold of this one. This will be next up. I'm still reading Black Butterflies. I want to make sure I have that read before I head to the Women's Prize Live Festival, but this will be right on the tails of that. I'm super excited about it. The other one that I found at the library, I have seen many times at the library, so I knew I was going to find it today. That is Kaikeyi. Is that how you say that? Kaikeyi? I could look it up, but who has the time? This is by Vaishnavi Patel. Is this debut? So Patel is a law student focusing on constitutional law and civil rights. I see a theme in these books. I don't think this is a debut novel either, but it looks like this is a mythic retelling. Let's have a look. This one's a chunky one, but since I like to read 3 books in the first month and 3 books in the second month, and I've already read one of the books, I was born on the full moon under an auspicious constellation, the holiest of positions, much good it did me. So begins Kaikeyi's story, the only daughter of the kingdom of Kaikei. She is raised on tales of the gods, how they churn the vast ocean to obtain the nectar of immortality, how they vanquish evil and ensure the land of Bharat prospers, and how they offer powerful boons to the worthy. I feel like this is going to be over my pay grade. Yet she watches as her father unceremoniously banishes her mother, listens as her own worth is reduced to the marriage alliance she can secure, and when she calls upon the gods for help, they never seem to hear. Desperate for independence, she turns to the text she once read with her mother and discovers a magic that is hers alone. With it, Kaikeyi transforms herself from an overlooked princess into a warrior, diplomat, and most favored queen. But as the evil from her childhood stories threatens the cosmic order, the path she has forged clashes with the destiny of the gods have chosen for her family, and Kaikeyi must decide if resistance is worth the destruction it will wreak and what legacy she intends to leave behind. I'm nervous about this one. I'm not going to lie. I am nervous about this one. Have you guys read this? I don't want to be biased or anything like that, but I just want to kind of get a feel of what some of you guys who typically enjoy what I read, what you think of this if you've read it. What do you think? I would love to hear about it. Please comment. Oh, and if I didn't mention it before, Kaikeyi is marketed as fantasy, mythology, historical fiction. I hope it's more mythological retelling than fantasy. If you've been around for a while, you know me and fantasy have a hard time getting along sometimes. So I'm nervous. Okay, this next one has gotten a lot of talk on Booktube, and I have been interested in it, but I just haven't gotten to it yet. And that is Young Mungo by Douglas Stewart. So this is by the author who wrote Shuggie Bain, and I'm actually more intrigued by Shuggie Bain than I am by this one. I just haven't read it yet. So it'll be interesting. It'll be good to find out what his writing style is, and maybe that'll bump Shuggie Bain up. Who knows? This is marketed as LGBTQ fiction, contemporary romance literary fiction. It's 390 pages, so that's manageable. I know you guys probably know all about this book, but I'll read a quick synopsis. Growing up in a housing estate in Glasgow, Mungo and James are born under different stars. Mungo a Protestant and James a Catholic, and they should be sworn enemies if they're to be seen as men at all. Yet against all odds, they become best friends as they find a sanctuary in the pigeon dovecote that James has built for his prize racing birds. I'm loving the sound of this. I had no idea about the racing birds portion of the story. As they fall in love, they dream of finding somewhere they belong, while Mungo works hard to hide his true self from all those around him, especially from his big brother Hamish, a local gang leader with a brutal reputation to uphold. And when several months later Mungo's mother sends him on a fishing trip to a loch in western Scotland with 2 strange men whose drunken banter belies Murky Pass, he will need to summon all his inner strength and courage to try to get back to a place of safety, a place where he and James might still have a future. Imbuing the everyday world of its characters with rich lyricism and giving full voice to people rarely acknowledged in the literary world, Young Mungo is a gripping and revealing story about the balance of masculinity, the divisions of sectarianisms, the violence faced by many queer people, and the dangers of loving someone too much. I think I'm probably going to love this one. This one smacks of The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne for me. If there's any John Boyne haters out there, I mean, I get the controversy, I get it, but I love that book so much. Anyways, I feel like I'm going to have similar feelings about this book than I did for Heart's Invisible Furies. I can only hope. I'm excited about this one. I believe I have this available on my Libby app, so I'll probably be listening to this one, maybe, I'm not sure. But yeah, the more details now that I know about this book, I'm a little bit more excited to read it than I was. Like I said, Shuggie Bain was higher up on my list, but that's the beauty of these prizes, right? We get these books thrust upon us, and sometimes that is just the best of happy accidents, right? The next book I've been assigned is Horse by Geraldine Brooks. I have not read Geraldine Brooks yet. Horse has been on my TBR, so has Year of Wonders. I am a little bit more excited about Horse than Year of Wonders, but I feel like this one is going to tug at my heartstrings a little bit too much. This is marketed as historical fiction, so it's one of my favorite genres. So there's that. A discarded painting in a junk pile, a skeleton in an attic, and the greatest racehorse in American history. From these strands, a Pulitzer Prize winner braids a sweeping story of spirit, obsession, and injustice across American history. Kentucky, 1850. An enslaved groom named Jarrett and a bay foal forge a bond of understanding that will carry the horse to record-setting victories across the South. When the nation erupts in civil war, an itinerant young artist who has made his name on paintings of the racehorse takes up arms for the Union. On a perilous night, he reunites with the stallion and his groom, very far from the glamour of any racetrack. New York City, 1954. So about 100 years later, Martha Jackson, a gallery owner celebrated for taking risks on edgy contemporary painters, becomes obsessed with a 19th century equestrian oil painting of mysterious provenance. Washington, D.C., 2019. 70 years later. Jess, a Smithsonian scientist from Australia, hello, and Theo, a Nigerian-American art historian, find themselves unexpectedly connected through their shared interest in the horse, one studying the stallion's bones for clues to his power and endurance, the other uncovering the lost history of the unsung black horsemen who were critical to his racing success. Based on the remarkable true story of the record-breaking thoroughbred Lexington, Horse is a novel of art and science, love and obsession, and our unfinished reckoning with racism. Okay, this sounds amazing. I'm probably going to love this one. It's all, I think, going to depend on writing style. I'm excited for this one. I'm more excited than I was when I initially put it on my TBR. Yay me. And is Geraldine Brooks, is she Australian? Have I been depriving myself of an Australian author? Australian-born Geraldine Brooks. What? Where have I been? Jane Harper, watch out. And finally, the last book that I've been assigned, it's an interesting selection. It's none other than the 2022 Pulitzer Prize winner, and that's Trust by Hernan Diaz. Interestingly enough, this is the lowest rated on Goodreads of all of them, I believe. Marketed as fiction, historical fiction. I thought there was some science fiction in this one. That goes to show you how much I know. Looks like there's literary, mystery. What I remember about this is when I first heard about it and all the buzz, because of the buzz that it was getting in not just with other readers, but in the prize community, I added it to my TBR. And then if I remember correctly, I read the synopsis and I'm like, meh, is that for me? I don't think so. And I took it off my TBR. But now it's back on my TBR and I will be reading it likely in July. Here is a synopsis. Even through the roar and effervescence of the 1920s, everyone in New York has heard of Benjamin and Helen Rask. He is a legendary Wall Street tycoon. She is the daughter of eccentric aristocrats. Together, they have risen to the very top of the world of seemingly endless wealth, all as a decade of excess and speculation draws to an end. But at what cost have they acquired their immense fortune? This is the mystery at the center of Bonds, a successful 1937 novel that all of New York seems to have read. Yet there are other versions of this tale of privilege and deceit. Okay, a book about a book. Hernan Diaz's Trust elegantly puts these competing narratives into conversation with one another and in tension with the perspective of one woman bent on disentangling fact from fiction. The result is a novel that spans over a century and becomes more exhilarating with each new revelation. At once an immersive story and a brilliant literary puzzle, Trust engages the reader in a quest for the truth while confronting the deceptions that often live at the heart of personal relationships, the reality warping force of capital, and the ease with which power can manipulate facts. Okay, still, it seems a little daunting, a little intimidating for me. I feel like I will need to read the physical copy of this. I feel like there's too much going on. There might be some back and forth with timelines and, the book and then the book within the book. So to keep my little tiny brain engaged adequately enough to judge this book, I think I'm going to need to read the physical copy. So that's it. Those are the books that I've been assigned for the Booktube Prize this year. These are the semifinals. Once the semifinals is done, then the fiction category is going to be narrowed down to 6 books. And then the winner, I believe, will be announced in October. And just to let you guys know, the other 6 books in the semifinals, Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid, Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver, Foster by Claire Keegan, How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu, Nightcrawling by Layla Motley, which has been on my TBR for a really long time, and Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield, which I've been very interested in reading. I kind of wish I got the other category. C'est la vie. Those are the books that are in the fiction semifinals. You can go to the website, which I'll link down below, and look at the finalists and all the information you would want for the Booktube Prize. And then, of course, there's the Booktube Prize channel that you can go to and get any information that you need about the prize. But those are the books that I've been assigned. I'll be reading them through June and July, and then I'll be talking about them in August. Do you have any thoughts about these books? I would love to hear about them down in the doodly-doo, or you could just say hi. If you're still watching at this point, please consider giving that like button a boop, and a subscribe would be wonderful. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.